And Mike in the house today, and we're going to talk a little bit to bring everybody up on a few things that's going on in our culture, in our city, in our country, and to bring some other private stuff that comes up from time to time that happens in our lives to make everybody feel better. So today we're going to do a special dedication on this program. Today's program I'm dedicating to a lifelong friend and business partner, Demetrius St. John. Demetrius St. John was a business partner of mine and a friend and confidant for well over 15 years. We did a lot of campaigns and did a lot of work around the city of Cleveland and did a lot of work around the state of Ohio. He actually was the person who actually helped me get started in many ways in my career, as well as in helping me to understand how you do politics around the state of Ohio. And it's somebody who I learned to really rely on over the years. And he's no longer with us, no longer a business partner, and is at a time where we all at a point in our lives where we all have to pivot a little bit and try to figure out what our next thing is. So today we're going to start the program off because what I want to do today is something that I couldn't do at the thing. I had the pleasure of doing the eulogy at his event, and I just couldn't get it out, y'all. I was just really broken up and heartbroken about him leaving. So today I want to just go a little bit into what are some of the things we were going to talk about that. So before I get started saying anything else, I want to acknowledge his wife. His wife's name was DeWan Gordon St. John. She's from Canton, Ohio. And I wanted to just want to thank her for everything she did to kind of working with Demetrius on every campaign, every win, every late night, early morning, and being behind the scenes to kind of keep things in the household working and kind of being the person to be his a wife. They were married for over 30 years. And I want to really say thank you for everything you did for allowing him to be a part of this madness that we call city of Cleveland, and this madness of national and local politics. He had a lot of work he done. He helped a lot of people, and he couldn't do that unless he had your blessings in order to do that. He also had left behind his granddaughter, who is his light of his world. I mean, he had a little granddaughter, and I wanted to tell her that, that Demetrius was a really big deal in a lot of ways. And I know you're young and you don't understand a lot of that right now, but as you get older, you're going to learn a lot more about who he was and what he's done and the impact he did. And I'm certainly you will really be proud about all of that. So I also, there's a lot of people who didn't know who Demetrius was, and some of the things that we do know about him. One of the biggest things was his biggest accomplishment was that he actually made it into the league. He is a graduate from John Adams High School here in Cleveland. Some people really thought he was from Canton or other places, but he actually was born and raised right here in Cleveland, Ohio. Graduated from John Adams High School, went off to college. When he got into college, he was able to get asked to play ball over in Europe. So he went overseas. He played over there a few years. And when he came back and he played in the NBA for a few seasons. He played in the NBA with a lot of other good players. If you want to give it some perspective, he was in the league with Brad Sellers, was just coming into the league. He also was in the league with Michael Jordan. And I used to always ask him about how was Michael Jordan was playing in the league with Michael Jordan, how that go. And he will always refer to Brad Sellers by saying Brad Sellers was the person who inbound that pass to Michael Jordan, who shot that game-winning shot over Craig Elo that killed us back in '89. So his biggest accomplishment about Michael Jordan is attributed to Brad Sellers inbounding a pass to him. So one of the things I wanted to also talk about was that he also, the way we met, I met Demetrius roughly about 15 years or so ago. And the reason why I met him was we were working on a campaign. There's a young lady in this city that everybody knows by the name of Angela Woodson. She works for the mayor's office right now. And back then we all were a lot younger and we did a whole lot of various different things. We run around the state. We were also people who always was, as a lot of people look at right now, some of these people who are out here now trying to get their voice heard, we were the same way. We was always out there trying to get our voice heard, trying to change the way government was, and thought we had good solutions. Angela Woodson was one of those people back then. We all were very, very tight and grew up working in an organization that we created called Black United and Local Democracy. And during that time, Angela was always the one who connected a lot of people. She connected me with Blaine Griffin. She connected me with Demetrius and just people along the way because she was always out there. Nevertheless, she also got started on the Ted Strickland campaign. And when she started putting the band together for Ted Strickland, she went out and she introduced me to this guy named Demetrius St. John. She said he was from Canton, but he also was from Cleveland. When I got a chance to really sit down with Demetrius, he told me the major reason why he was working on the campaign wasn't just about Ted Strickland. It was because Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones sent him there to watch me. And I was like, watch me. And, you know, for those who don't know, like I say, back then I was getting into a whole lot of what we call so-called trouble, the kind of trouble that comes from pushing, challenging, and refusing to accept anything else, anything the way they are. And apparently that got the attention of Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones. And we all know she was one of the most powerful women in politics back then and wanted him to keep an eye on me. So she sent Demetrius. And we always, every time he would pull up and come over into the office, he would pull in and he'll be like, you know, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, she got me here. Congresswoman got me watching you. So what are you doing? And we would sit back and we laughed about that for over 20 years. Now, what Stephanie Tubbs Jones sent him to do to watch me turned into an important relationship and a partnership in my career, one of the most important friendships of my life. And I'm grateful she sent them to me. She always knew what she was doing. And that was one of the great things that helped change how my perspective and how we started doing business. So shouts out to Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones. Demetrius St. John was a political operative, and you need to understand what that means because most people don't. Being a political operative is not glorious. It's not, you're not the person who gets the press conferences. You don't get none of the victory speeches. You don't get your name on the sign. But what you do get, you get that phone call at 11 o'clock at night when something is going wrong, something needs to be fixed by morning, and the impossible problem with a tight window and a community full of people whose lives depend on the outcome. But here's the code. Here's the thing to separate real operatives from everyone else. You don't come with excuses. You come with answers. And that's what makes you different than everyone else. When somebody trusts you enough that they can go ahead and call you up because they know you're going to give them answers, that's a very important place to be. And Demetrius lived by that standard every day. And he did that for over 20 years, working with me without flinching. When Ted Strickland was running for governor in 2025, Demetrius was on the ground as minority outreach coordinator. Nobody handled him. Nobody handed him a platform. This was built by relationship, door-to-door conversations, and connections that were built in communities all around Ohio. In 2008, the year changed the trajectory of our country. Demetrius was the outreach coordinator and director for the Ohio Democratic Party and the Obama campaign for change. For Ohio, Ohio was one of the biggest battleground states at that time, and Ohio fought, and Ohio delivered. That was no accident. That was done by people who understand what it meant to really put everything on the line and refuse to come home without a win. He went from doing that to going to Detroit, and he was a consultant for Congressman John Conyers, one of the most consequential figures in history in African-American politics. From Detroit to Washington, he operated in a room that he was trusted in. And in that room where he was trusted in, he was in a room where he was very trusted by a lot of people who trusted him to be there and give him strong advice. He came back to Ohio as political director for Kevin Boyce, and he served as Stark County Board of Election. Now, what's important to me is that Demetrius was from Cleveland. He went to Stark County, and he became the first African-American person to serve on the county board of elections. And we used to laugh about that as well, because that was a seat that I couldn't do myself. I was trying to judge, hard to get that, and they wouldn't let me do it. But my man went down there in a district that's predominantly all white, and they went ahead and elected him that. Good for him. He became the executive vice president of the Stark County Democratic Club. He worked in the field of Ohio Progressives for Ohio, one of the regional coordinators for the NAACP Voter Fund. Every level, every kind of work, local, statewide, national. And 2020, when democracy itself was being tested, Demetrius was the strategic advisor for Biden campaign and for statewide, and he was the statewide political outreach advisor for Marcia Fudge. And he helped carry the state to a win at that time as well. From Ted Strickland door knocking in 25 to Joe Biden and Harris presidential campaign in 2020, that is not a career, that's a calling. Every single time the phone rang, he answered that. This is Pastor Phillips asked me to do the eulogy for this service. And when he asked me to do that, I immediately said I couldn't do it. I didn't think I could do it. And as a result, I couldn't do it, like I said. But what he did do, he challenged me to really get into trying to figure out what that meant. And so in that, I went through and I talked to a few people, tried to come up with some scriptures or something that can come, because when you do these eulogies, you got to be able to relate it back to people as well. And one of the scriptures that came to mind that came out of all of that was one that says Proverbs 22 and 29. Do you see someone skilled in their work? They're serving. All right, it goes, do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of lower rank. And so when I started listening to that, honestly, trying to figure out what did it really mean? Because technically, when you talk about lower rank and the scheme of things of what Demetrius was doing, he worked for mayors, council members, state representative, treasurers. And by some measure, some people can look at those people and say, those are people of lower rank. But here's what came out that I came to understand about the scripture and what it really was saying. Lower rank doesn't mean lower office. It means obscurity. It means nobody. It means a room where nothing is really happening and nothing is really being decided. What the scripture was really saying is a man who is truly skilled in his work will not stay hidden. His skills will carry him into rooms where real power sits and where real decisions are made. And here's the part that matters most. Demetrius did not just work for those people. He was trusted by them, and that makes the difference, a big difference. When a mayor needed votes, a president needed Ohio, a congresswoman needed her district mobilized and her people protected, they needed him. That's real skills that put him in a room, and his integrity kept him there. That's not serving at lower rank. That's being the man, the power behind the people, and doing the work that powerful people cannot do it without you. In 2012, Demetrius joined the team of strategic resources for over 15 years. He was one of the most dependable people I have ever worked with and had in business. And it's been a long time since I've been working with anybody in business, and that made a difference for me and being able to deliver work for people across the state. It's really hard when you understand when you're doing this kind of business and you be able to pick up a phone and be able to contact people all around the state at a drop of the dime to be able to get them to do work for you. It was times when we needed work done, I'd be able to call Demetrius and say, hey, man, who we have in Canton, or who we have down in Toledo, or who do we have in Cincinnati? And he always has somebody to do that. And that's a very important part of business that unfortunately right now is a big part of me that's missing. one of the things I do want to say is that, as an operative and as we always do, we always continue in the move. It just don't stop. When Demetrius first said he was sick and was in the hospital, he said, "Hey man, I'm sick. I'm going in the hospital." I was like, "Okay, are you going to be all right?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm going to have some surgery and I'll be back out and I'm going to go to a rehab center to rehab." Now, during that, and this is the part that I want everybody to really understand, and this is what happened to me with this. When he said that, yeah, I'm getting some water. Could I get some water? When he said that to me initially, when he went to the said he was going in the hospital, we hear that from people all the time. "Oh, I'm going to the hospital. I'll be all right. And I'll be doing this and I'll be doing that and I'll be out." And then he went into the rehab center. He'll be in the rehab center. He was doing that. I'm continuing to work, just calling, checking on him. He'll call, check on me, what's going on. And we're doing our thing. And I remember calling him a few times. And when I needed some help, because again, like I said, I haven't really stopped. I keep working and I keep doing, other than the fact of saying, "Hey brother, how you doing?" That's all I was saying. And I would call him up and I'll be like, "Demetrius, I need you to help me do this. Can you research this? Can you look at that? Did you read this? Can you do that?" And he would do that. And then I used to call him. I used to actually say these words. I used to say, "Man, you ain't doing nothing but sitting up there. Why don't you go ahead and read this?" And he wouldn't say nothing. I'll give it this. I'll mention it a couple of times. And he finally told me, he said, "Kenn, I'm up here fighting for my life. And you keep calling me, telling me this stuff, man. I'm really fighting for my life." And that's when I dawned on me that, hey, this brother is really sick and he may be really having an issue. And so what I'm saying that to everybody is that we get to a point where we need to really start checking on our people, checking on our friends, and checking on the folks that we need to be checking on, and go more than just a phone call, more than just, "Hey, how you doing?" but really ask them about how their health is doing and really have a conversation with them about what's really going on with them. Because on the outside, it looked like he was okay. But really, as I got to know after that realization, he told me and started really talking to him like, I would say, a more of a friend than just a business partner, I realized that he really was having some ailments and he was really ill in the end. That's why many of the people we talk to now never even thought anything was wrong with him, because when you talk to him, you would thought everything was okay. So I want to end it with saying to everybody that make sure you check on the people that you need to check on. I want to also end it by saying Demetrius was one of the best partners I had in business. I'm at a point now where now we're going to have to start to pivot a little bit and figure out what we're going to do. And I was true in that as we were going, because, we started the podcast and a few other things that we're doing. So now it's really that time where we're going to really try to utilize that to move in a direction. I really hate to think that 30 years, close to 20 or 30 years of dealing in politics now is something that I have and just going to go away with me, because I would like to be able to do something with it or give it to somebody who want to learn from it. But, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. So what we're going to do is, again, I wanted to just get that off and say again, well done, my faithful servant. You have been faithful over all things, and I will make you the ruler over many things. That's Matthew 25:21. And that's what we're going to end it out with Demetrius. He did a great job for everybody who knows him. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got Judge Nelson in the house. We just freestyling it today. We're going to talk a little bit about what's on his mind, see what DJ Unicorn got going around the city, and we'll be right back. You tuned in to WOVU 95.9 FM Strategic Moves Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Cleveland, this is your show, your topics, and your voice. Join in for What's on Your Mind Tuesday on 95.9 FM WOVU. Call in or comment on social media. Let's make this conversation unforgettable. Streaming live on WOVU.org. It's alright. Yeah. You know how it is. Oh my, oh my, yeah. Oh my, oh my, oh my. It's alright. Oh my. mine, yeah. All mine, all mine, all mine. Let's keep it real. We both still young, so what's the rush? The night is young and we not drunk enough. You'll come around if I don't do too much. We had our downs, but we had way more ups. Let's make love. That be the reason that you always hit me up. I swear, you like the way I feel, cause I get rough. You told me your new man don't make you. It's a shame. You come here, I knock you out the frame. Remember that last time I made you miss your plane? Remember that last time I wet you down with champagne? Remember that? And I know I've been the worst, but I love you better if you let me. Let's catch a flight, change the weather, and I promise forever. All mine, all mine, all mine, all mine, yeah. All mine, you know how I feel. All mine, all mine, yeah. All mine, all mine, all mine. Oh my, let's keep it real. If only I could pay the bills with my love for you, we'd be the richest in the room. Hey, we'd be so comfortable. Girl, it's only you for me. Legal Lens starts now. Order in the court. When the gavel drops, the truth pops. Judge Michael Nelson. It's time to break down the law like never before. Bringing you the facts, the insight, and the hard-hitting truth. Buckle up, Cleveland.
All right, we are back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I am feeling much better. I was able to do that because I just felt really bad. I wasn't able to do that at the funeral.
Glad you were able to. You know, Demetrius is a very impressive person.
Yeah.
In both work and in deed.
Yes. So that we got that done, and appreciate that. And we're gonna dedicate this program, and we're gonna move on. So, Judge, what's going on with you, man? What's happening in this world?
I just came from a meeting, and it's a very important meeting, and it was dealing with the crisis that Black community is facing, and how do we convince Black folks that we're in crisis? How do we formulate that message, and then how do we actually develop a work plan around that? Because if we don't shake our people out of the lethargy they're in, and they're doing business as usual in these critical times, we're facing some difficult days ahead, and we have the responsibility of convincing our community that they have to be action people. But it's hard to convince a person you're in crisis if every car in the parking lot is a Mercedes-Benz or Alfa Romeo, and everybody is suited up. Now, I'm not criticizing the success, but we have to look at how that appears. What's the perception? You know, we in trouble as I get into my Tahoe,
right?
Or as I get into my G-Wagon. It's hard to convince, and that's why it's difficult for athletes to go out and tell people what difficult times we're in when they live in a $12 million mansion. So we're going to have to somehow reach and involve community activists. Maybe we got to make the people that are in the motorcycle gangs the spokespersons. Maybe those kids that are doing those gatherings at the what do they call them when all the kids show up at a spot? What do they call that thing?
No, when they do those
when they take the takeovers,
like the takeovers and all that shit.
Maybe we need to meet with the leadership of the takeovers and get them involved in politics, because
all those groups you named don't want to do nothing with politics.
You missed what I said though. Maybe we got to figure out how to convince them, because the fact is, you're right. They don't. They don't. But that is the difference between our success. Because when we keep losing elections 62% to 38%, that means a whole lot of people are not engaged.
So let me ask you a question.
How do we get them engaged?
Maybe we looking at this wrong.
Probably are.
Maybe we looking at this wrong. Maybe the real problem is that those people who are not voting are totally contented with the way things are.
Well, I just said we got to figure out a way to convince people who otherwise think everything is fine And some,
I mean, because they gotta believe that. I mean, they're not voting for their interests or against it, so that means they contented with the way things are.
But what that allows, it creates a vacuum. Whenever there's a vacuum, nature abhors a vacuum. So somebody's gonna jump in there. And right now, there was a time before Black people were allowed to vote in the United States that a Supreme Court ruling in that was just in the Dred Scott case was that we white people the white people were told that there was no rights that Black people had that any white person had to respect. And that was a Supreme Court decision written by the Chief Justice, Roger B. Taney, in that case. We talking to us. So I've taken the they out and saying that we have no rights that any white person was bound to respect. Now that was changed by the adoption of the 14th Amendment. Okay. But these cases you see now are a re-entrenchment of the Dred Scott attitude. So if we taking districts away, now one of the mistakes we make is we always refer to a district as a person's district. For example, they talked about Jasmine Crockett's district. Well, it wasn't Jasmine's district, it was our district, and we selected Jasmine. The people of that district selected her to serve in that seat.
I understand.
So let's don't focus on the person, but it's our district. And if they take away our district, that takes away our representation. You look at Jim Jordan's district. It runs from Columbus to the lake. Now, who is the priority? Who gets his priority? Is it the agricultural people? Is it the fishing people? I mean, who's the priority? So when we look at these districts, first of all, they limit our representation. Secondly, when we went with the Calius case in Louisiana, they took away our ability to have representation. And then they argue that, well, it's not race-based. Well, the fact is that the reason the district was carved out was because there was no Black representation, which meant that Black people, a race of people, had no representation. So they fixed it. I was listening to one of the arguments where a legislature was saying, well, do you think race should be used to help people? Yeah, especially if race was used to deny a people. Yes. Do I believe in reparations? Hell yeah. Why? Because we did free work. Free work. And the only way you compensate people for free work is to pay them.
All right.
Now, now people are going to then argue, well, you weren't a slave. Yes, but the fact is that majority people took advantage of that, and those advantages exist through today.
Hell, if they really want to be nitpicky about it and say you had to prove it, then just say you'll do that and make everybody prove it.
That's true.
I mean, heck, it's not like it's a hard thing to do. You can say, hey, okay, you know what? If you can prove you was a slave or you get descendant of slaves, we'll go ahead and give you some reparations. If you just say that, because everybody walking around here Black isn't. And we understand that. So, but the ones who are, why don't you go ahead and compensate them?
And compensate them just like the Japanese. Japanese.
Well, just like the what is the insurrectionists.
Oh, that I don't know what that's a payoff. That is
they got $1 billion.
That
man.
is a payoff.
$1 billion.
See, that proves
we should have ran down there with something, man. We could have got some of them in.
That proves that those were Trump's goons. Jeez. And they got in trouble, and he's compensating his goons. The woman that got shot and killed trying to break into the Senate chambers, she got money.
Wow. For
breaking into the Senate chambers where they were threatening, if they could catch him, to hang Mike Pence, his own boy. So these Magites are not only crazy, but they are dangerous. Now they have a Supreme Court, a Magite Supreme Court, that in fact is passing rulings to disadvantage entire race of people, to drive us back to the days to 1857, the days of Dred Scott.
That's terrible. That's terrible. We living in terrible times, man.
We know it. You and I know it. Yeah, but most of our contemporaries, they go to the same black tie dinners, having a good time. It's as if no one has informed them of the danger we're facing.
Do you think it's time for another party?
Well,
Or do you think another party can survive? Because we say that, but it takes a lot of money and movement to be a party, and everybody says that. Because the biggest party that's out there, I guess, I don't know if you unified or not, is the
non-voting
non-party, right? The non-voting party, but the independence has a very large vote of people out there too. They just are not in either one of their parties they claim, but they're not a unified party. So do you think where we're going is and let me ask you this, Judge, because I'm gonna tell you in my opinion, and you tell me, do you think it's the Democrats' fault, or do you think it's the white man's fault?
Well, the fact of the matter is that we live in a different time. Mm-hmm. So you and I, other folks in this room, mm-hmm. we learned history. And we're able to connect today with what went on in the past. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. There are leaders in this community that espouse a party. They're not party leaders, but I'm saying there are people who espouse a party who have not helped us.
Okay.
And I know I'm gonna make some of my union people mad. When's the last time there was a teacher strike to improve the curriculum of inner city kids?
I don't think they never had one.
Yeah, blame right.
The last time,
the most.
Well, hold on. Let's go back. Oh, you said a strike.
When and the only one.
Yeah, I don't remember a strike.
And in fact, in Brownsville, in New York, mm-hmm. they actually went after everybody because their kids were suffering at the hands of both the union and the city's administration. Mm. And their movement was crushed. Now, I'm not criticizing teachers for fighting for pay,
right,
better working conditions. Mm-hmm. You're entitled to that. But once in a while, you need to go on strike for the kids. For the kids.
For the kids.
And instead of asking parents come out and support us in our fight for working conditions, parents, we're going to come out and help you fight for better conditions for your kids. Mm. And I attended a couple of graduations this week, and I looked at my granddaughter's graduation, mm-hmm. and I know where those kids are going. Mm-hmm. And then I looked at some Cleveland graduations, and I was aggravated. I said, why can't all the tax money we're paying, our young people who want to make progress should be able to make progress? You shouldn't have to send your kid to and pay $35,000, $40,000 to get mm-hmm. a quality education. And when I say quality, I'm talking about where graduation is expected. It's expected. It's like, okay, yeah, you graduated, good. Next step.
Well, that's been like that for years. I mean, especially in CMSD, it's really, really bad. I saw everybody out there on the videos crying because Collinwood's about to get closed. I mean, they were on there literally crying, man. And I get it. I got bused to Lincoln West, so I got a love-hate respect for our school. And maybe if I went to Glenville or somewhere, I'll feel that way if, my school was closing. But I was more disappointed in the fact that it wasn't no students in there and they had to close it. I'm like, geez.
Out of there's 17,000 residents in the Collinwood. Mm-hmm. What's the ward number? I don't know what the ward number is. Is it 10 now? Whatever the ward number is. Out of that 17,000 residents, only 120 decided to go to Collinwood.
Wow.
St. Joe's, which is in that same district, has 400 and some boys, mm-hmm. Students. Ginn Academy has 400. Mm-hmm. In the same day, and there's no such thing called the Ginn Academy or the St. Joe's, Bill Angela St. Joe's neighborhood. People chose to send their kids there because they had confidence mm-hmm. that their kids were going to be standard set and their kids would learn and be protected. Now, I'm not criticizing the people who are hurt by the closing of Collinwood, but the school didn't get into this condition like last week. Mm-hmm. There were 130 kids and an average of 90 per day in that school.
Wow.
That means that 16,900 people decided to send their kids elsewhere.
Wow.
Chose to send their kids elsewhere. And that trickles down to the elementary schools in that neighborhood. Those families said, we're going somewhere else.
Well, that's a true testament. I don't know what kind of survey or poll or anything CMSD need to look at, or the state, to figure out that product they serving is crummy. I don't know what it takes, because if you was a business person and you got them kind of numbers, you'd be like, you know what, we got to close the doors. Yeah. They don't like what I'm cooking. I'm having a problem. I mean, I just don't understand how, as taxpayers and everybody else, year after year, we continue to throw good money with bad money. And then I get to understand why people want public education and the importance of it. I'm not against that, but it has to work for us. And that's the reason, Judge, why those people are sitting at home mad. That's the reason why those people are not voting, because they don't see it working.
You probably are right. But now you go out to here, and see, it's not about bad public schools. It's about something bad in the air about some public schools. Mentor is a great school system, great school system, and they have a crazy representatives that wants to penalize one of the biggest and most successful high schools or school districts by imposing these penalties on them if they fight the state for imposing foolish legislation. So there are great public schools, and they may be tied to the economics of the people around, but the fact of the matter is that you cannot use that as an excuse. You just factor that into.
I'm gonna tell you a community that don't use it for an excuse. Yeah. Parma.
Okay.
Parma. They ain't passed a levy in Parma in hundreds of years, and they keep trying. Year after year, Parma put a levy up for those schools, and it get killed. Yeah. I mean, the people out there don't believe, because most of those people, I'm willing to bet you, that they believe that the school system is so bad that they're sending their kids somewhere else. And the ones that are sending their kids to that school just don't believe in it enough that they want to raise their taxes or anything else to give it. Now, are the kids suffering? I don't know, because I don't live there, but I just know in my lifetime of growing up, that levy's been going on the ballot for a long time, and they never pass it out.
Let's talk about that. Look, and now I'm really getting in trouble with some of my friends. If you have a school system where many of the families in your school district are either Catholic or some other religion, Lutheran, they're sending their kids to what kind of school?
Catholic.
A parochial school.
Right.
So that means that those who are in the public school don't get the support of the people who send their kids to the parochial schools. So they vote down levies. Now, if you're Cleveland Heights, you have a different attitude about public school. So you have to look at communities that are progressive. Because and I don't mean progressive in terms of far left. I'm talking about progressive in wanting to make sure your kids have a well-balanced education. Okay? A well-balanced education. Now, I'm not criticizing people that send their kids to parochial schools. Some of my kids went to Seventh-day Adventist schools from first grade through the 12th grade. So I'm not criticizing that, but I am saying that if you're a citizen in the community, you shouldn't be just looking out for yours. You should be looking out for everybody. So why don't they pass a levy? Because most of those people are not supportive of a public school, because they want all their resources to go to their private school. And then you have so much money, the state. Now, let's talk about this, Ken. We talked about Demetrius and how hard he worked. The fact of the matter is that we have state legislatures. The Republican Party has been in charge of the state of Ohio since 2011. I mean, hard in charge. And they have a super majority. So every time a Republican gets on TV criticizing a Democrat for the state being screwed up, they're the ones that have been in charge of all houses, the governor's mansion, the state representatives, and the Senate.
That's correct.
So every bad thing about Ohio is the MAGites are at fault, because they who run in the show. So don't be deluded by this nonsense where the Democrats did this, the Democrats did. No. Republicans run the courts. They hold every constitutional office. There's only one person that holds a statewide office as a Democrat, and that's Jennifer Burton.
Yep.
And even when we had more than one with O'Donnell, with Mike Donnelly, Justice Donnelly, and Justice Stewart, we were still in the minority. So don't let them tell you that nonsense That's why the school systems are in bad shape financially. The Supreme Court ruled the funding formula unconstitutional. This and told the legislature to fix it. The legislator told the Supreme Court, go pound salt, to the point that the Supreme Court now said, okay, it's y'all's problem. So we have an issue. That's why I'm so adamant about this voting thing, man. We are volunteer. I can't say it like that because it gets you thrown off the radio. We are volunteering to get ourselves kicked in the ass. Okay, I was gonna say it a little different way, but I'll leave it at that. We are volunteering to get a foot up our behinds.
I got it.
We just said, please kick me in the butt.
I got you.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
I got you, Mike. Don't worry about it. I got the beats for you. I was a little late.
This is community radio. I'm sorry. But Unicorn, that's what's happening.
I, as a parent of a 5-year-old who is going into kindergarten, I totally hear you both. And I myself, as a 36-year-old Black woman living in Cleveland, have my own concerns. So my question to you both, as people that have raised children and have made these decisions that I'm now facing, but in a totally different climate than it was when you all were raising your children, what advice would you give me as a parent that is weighing that option? Should I send my kid to private school? Should I send them to the public education around the corner that is conveniently here in my neighborhood, but probably won't give my daughter as much exposure, as much diversity, as much as many things as she needs? As a parent, what do I do in this climate as a 36-year-old woman now?
Choose for your child's education. You want to make sure your child is protected and put in a position where every resource is readily available, exposure is available. I went to the Dazzle Awards. I never heard of the Dazzle Awards. It's like the Oscars for high school musicals and plays and stuff. And it was like, this has been going on for years.
And CMSD?
No, this was there's 46. There is a CMSD school, the musical thing.
The school of arts. No, this is the one that was.
There are 46 schools that participate in this collaboration, where they actually have people go out and they write reviews and judge these plays, and then they produce this show. And kids from Andrews Osborne and from Whitcliffe and it's from Summit County and from Lake County, Cuyahoga County. The best actor came from St. Ignatius. The best actress came from a public school. I mean, these people, and they had them divided into categories where the budget is more than $12,000 per production and less than $12,000 per production. And these kids were like, whoa, So, and our poor little kids were invisible. When I say the Cleveland SCMSD. So, Unicorn, you decide what's best for your child. Forget about the politics of me and Ken.
Well, you
got to go where it's best for your
I'm gonna tell you what I would do. I knowing you and what you do as a community person and in the community and all of that. CMSD, because you're in CMSD schools?
Euclid.
You're in Euclid. Euclid, CMSD, and most of these schools, even the suburban ones, they're K through middle schools are good. You can get your kid there, they can learn, and they can do good. Reason why I like that is because if you're a little bit about community, it's good for the kids to know the other kids in the neighborhood and people they went to school with, that kind of thing. When she gets ready to go to middle school, I would be really picking out where I wanted to go to middle school at, because that's where they really start to change. That's when they really starting to grow, and the people they hang with and what they're starting to develop. And because you need them to be well enough to come out of middle school to deal with high school. Because if you're not sending them to a private school, because just being honest, on these high schools, man, they slim pickings. Even in the suburban areas, Euclid, Cleveland Heights, they're not the same schools, that they used to be. So when you even getting into high school now, you got to really make sure that they learned what they needed to learn in elementary. They applied it well in the middle school. So, because if they got to go to high school, it's gonna be so many distractions and bull crap in high school that they're gonna have to deal with if they not in their mind that, hey, I'm here to learn to get what I'm gonna give. That ain't rooted in them. They're gonna get pulled off in another direction. So
that's right.
Either you keep them in there, you let them learn the community, because middle school and elementary, that guy who grew up to be maybe a terrorist when he got into high school, he might was your best friend in kindergarten, and you might be on the side of the road one day. He'd be the dude, hey, that's you, unicorn, and help you, versus not hitting you upside your head. You see what I'm saying? So to know the people in your neighborhood, I think is good, and they can get that. But then when they get into high school, when it's time for you to go, the decision you need to make is harder when you get into high school than right now, because from elementary to middle school, you should be fine. But high school is going to be a battle.
So I take her to the park around the corner from our house, and them kids are rough. And my little baby is a little dainty thing. She go to preschool in the Heights. And so Euclid is not Euclid. What Euclid used to be.
No, I understand.
And so I'm just kind of like, ooh, I don't know. But so the other side of the coin to that question would be, as a community member, and when we think about the success of the community, does your answers change?
Break that down a little bit more.
From a community standpoint, instead of take away being a parent, and we're thinking about the community as a whole, and we're thinking about the public education for our children as a whole, does your answers change?
Well, with my children, and my kids run from 56 down to 35, so that's the range. So and they became parents. So they went to both public schools, private schools, and graduated from. My son came out of Benedictine. My daughters one came out of Shaw, one came out of where did you get the bus to? Lutheran West?
Lincoln West.
She went to one of them West Side schools, and my youngest one went to private school, period. So, and my grandkids went to Garfield, they went to public schools, and they wound up going to charter schools. But the fact of the matter is that, and they were part of the community too. So they were part of the community. But you got to protect your kids while at the same time educating your kids. Let them touch it, but don't get caught up in it. So it's you and see, you'll be a different kind of parent. So you probably looked at some of the kids and seeing how they're acting. So you parent your child. So that's the other thing. We have a generation of people who, and I'm not saying it's their fault, who weren't parented and aren't parenting. And that's why you have people fighting at the graduation, throwing chairs at the kindergarten.
At the kindergarten, I'm like, why Ohio?
See, that's parenting.
Dude had his shirt off, walking around just like, what the heck you at a kindergarten thing with your shirt off?
All these babies.
See, that's parenting. He didn't get parented, or either if he did, he didn't get the kind of parenting you're giving your child. And so we see these realities, we can't dismiss them. We have to look at them. Then we see them in court, or as lawyers, we see them. We get in there. Okay, explain what you did. Well, man, I don't know. I ain't do nothing wrong. She looked at me wrong, and I did. And they think that's all right. So lack of parenting, lack of good judgment. So those are you have to make a tough decision, but you have to make decisions that are best for your child. Okay, don't let political rhetoric and politics decide where you're gonna send your child, so you can be like down.
That was a lawyer answer of you.
Yeah, you don't want to be down. You want to make sure your kid is educated, and exposed.
That's what I did. I was in Glenville. I grew up down there all my life and everything. And it's just when the kids got ready to go to school, I just knew that either they would have to go to private school and I have to pay, or I have to move to a community where I felt they can go to school. And I just chose Heights because I just didn't want to be too far out, and I just didn't want to go to Beechwood. Beechwood would have been the perfect place to go education-wise, and they had a really nice swim park and all of that the kids, well, let's move here. But I didn't like the community. It's like, to your point, I'm about community too. And I just didn't like, and it's not the people in the community, so I don't want it to come off racist or nothing, but didn't feel a sense of my community there. And so I didn't. And even though I'm fighting with Cleveland Heights about identity and trying to fit a community, I can say I feel more at a community there than I would in Beechwood and some of the other places.
And see, Glenville changed. Glenville that Kenn had was on the starting to change. Glenville I was in was like a solid middle class Black community where people were moving into. And so by 68, 69, that was changing. But when we got to Glenville, it was like the place to be.
You know, here goes something that, and Judge can go back on. I remember as a kid being in Glenville, the football team and the band and all of that, every year before the season started, they will do a parade through the neighborhood. It wasn't no big parade like the congressional parade. It was the band and the football team. And what that did was, as kids and all of us, we look up and you're a young girl and you see these girls as cheerleaders going through the neighborhood. As young guys, you see the football team, and they wouldn't run. They would walk through with their full equipment on, whole thing, and just walk through the neighborhood and everybody. And you kind of knew two things. One, school was getting ready to get started again because here come the football team. Second of all, football season is about to get started and Glenville was playing. And that sense of pride and community is just gone now. And even whatever we try to build it up to is gone. And it left a long time ago.
Hence Ted Ginn. He's trying to save that and hold it. He's fighting like with both hands tied behind his back, stand on one foot. But he still fights. And that's what we have. That's what we got to do, provide that kind of support so that our community can prosper.
Judge, you got 30 seconds. What you got?
Bro, I need people voting, man. I need you all to get educated. I need everybody to hold a voting party along the lines of Tupperware and ACN. Invite your neighbors over, give them some barbecue, and before you give them a rib, give them a voter registration card, and then bring them back with a early voting mail-in ballot so they can fill that out at the next party. I need y'all to do that on every street. Churches, I need you to empower your members. Do that. Every member of your church should be holding a party. So there'd be 10 people for every one person in your church.
Well, on behalf of the Strategic Moves Media Network, we're going to be kicking off Freedom Summer 2026 this year. And we're going to be doing that either by the end of this month or sometime in July. We're going to get our dates together. I want you guys to listen more and more about that. We're calling it Freedom Summer,
That's right.
Where we're going to talk about voter registration. We're going to be registering people to vote. We're going to be doing all the things we need necessary to be able to express ourselves as journalists, as Black media, and as people who have something to say. So I want y'all to stay tuned in and listen to more. Tune in to us on all our podcasts. We're on Substack now. So if you got your email and you send it in, you can catch us on Substack as well. And until next week, I want to tell everybody, thank you. Shout outs to Demetrius. Peace.
What's on your mind this Tuesday, Cleveland? Let's talk art, culture, politics, and business on the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell Radio Show. Call us on 95.9 FM WOVU. Stream live at WOVU.org or comment on our social media. Let's hear from you.
This is Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell.